Not yet. We're still going. Okay, we're live now. Yeah, now the mic works. Okay, welcome. Second time works. Try hard enough. I see. Yeah, the mic is good. Okay. We are starting a semi-new piece, but it's obviously the same topic. We're talking about Shema, and more specifically, which sections and where in Shema you're allowed to stop. Is it between the sections of Shema? Is it in the Shema itself? Are we stopping for anything? Are you afraid of somebody, and that's why you're afraid of your life So therefore you're greeting somebody in the middle of Shema, or you're responding, and so on. But here the Gemara starts with as follows: Boi minei achi tana de Rabbi Chia. Achi was a person who was in charge of reviewing or repeating Brachos teachings in the name of in front of Rabbi Chia. So he had, let's just say, access to him. And he asked Rabbi Chia the following question. He said, "B'halal b'megillah ma'u sheyafsik." Till now, we're talking about interrupting the middle of Shema. What about the middle of Hallel, which is a special prayer that's said on Yom Tif and holidays? We also say it on Rosh Chodesh. And the same thing is the Megillah. We're just coming from Purim. In Yerushalayim, it's still Purim today, this year especially, or specifically this year. And what if you're in the middle of the Megillah, or you're in the middle of Hallel? Can you interrupt with the same type of stuff to greet somebody, or to somebody you have to honor, or to respond to somebody that you're afraid of, and so on? Do we say Omrinan Kal V'Chemer? Should we say a Kal V'Chemer? The Krishma Deiraisa. Till now we had a discussion about Shema, which Shema is a biblical command, and we said Pesach that you're allowed to stop in between depending which opinion, but you're allowed to stop at certain places for certain reasons. So it should apply. How much more so? Halal d'Rabbanan, which is only a rabbinic mitzvah. It's not a mitzvah which is biblically commanded, like Shema is, which you have to say in the morning and at night according to Torah. So then for sure you should be able to. So therefore, then definitely you're allowed to do so. Or do we say that yes, Hallel and Megillah are not, they're not biblical, but they have a very high level of importance because they're here to publicize a nes. And you're publicizing a miracle, which is a way of thanking Hashem for the miracle. You don't interrupt in the middle. How should we look at it? Amar Lei, so Rabbi Chia told this Achi, he said, you could interrupt the middle of Hallel or the middle of the Megillah, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's perfectly fine. What? Just like Shema, but it depends, again, which opinion and so on. We pass that you could go in between by Hallel and Megillah. Should we compare Hallel and Megillah to Shema, or is it more strict than Shema? And we say that Rabbi Chia told him, yes, you're allowed to interrupt, and it's fine. Omar Rabba said, Yomim, she argues on Rabbi Chia, and he says, Yomim shayachid gema b'henes halal ben perek leperek pesik, be'emtza perek ene pesik. He says it depends. Not any time you say halal are you allowed to interrupt. If this is a day that a person has to say the whole halal, there's certain times like Rosh Chodesh or Chol Hamoed, or certain days when we say halal, but we don't say the entire halal. Especially if in the Gemara time it's an individual without a minyan or without a Beit HaMikdash. One person is saying on his own, you're saying the whole halal. So if you're saying the whole halal, then you could only interrupt between perek leperek. But in the middle of a section, you're not allowed to interrupt. Unlike Rabbi Chia, or maybe he's qualifying what Rabbi Chia is saying. But if it's a day when we don't say the whole halal, it's like Rosh Chodesh, for example, or Chol Hamoed Pesach as another example. Then it's less of a stringency or the halal which is said then, and you could interrupt even in the middle of a section. You probably should finish the pasuk, but you're allowed to interrupt. The Gemara does not accept this so quickly. The Gemara says, Eini, this is not the case. How could Rabbi say this and argue with Rabbi Chia? We have a story to disprove it. You're telling me that you're allowed, in a day that you don't say the whole halal, you can interrupt in the middle of a piece of halal, in the middle of a section. But Rav Bar Shva, there's a story about Rav Bar Shva, Ikla legabei de Ravina. He met, or he was staying by Ravina, which is a great sage. It was a day when you don't finish the whole halal. And he did not stop for him. And he's a person which you should really honor. And this would be a good example that he would stop in middle and greet him. But he didn't. So you see that you're not allowed to. Why would he disrespect him? Clearly because you're not allowed to do it. But answer Shani Rav Bar Shvad lechoshev alei Ravina. Rav Bar Shvad is different because Ravina wasn't that respectable, so to speak, to him. It didn't go into that category. When it comes to respecting somebody, it depends how much older they are than you and how much greater they are in their knowledge than you. And it puts them in a certain category that you're required to respect them. So yes, he's a respectable person, but in comparison to who we're dealing with, Rav Bar Shva, he didn't have to respect him. At least he didn't have to interrupt the Shema in order to respect him. So what you end up having here is that we go back to Rabba's argument or qualification that says that yes, you're allowed to interrupt in the middle of Hallel, but it depends. Bein perek leperek, you could always do it. In middle of a section, you could do it only on days that you don't finish the whole Hallel. I want to clarify that today, when we daven, we try not to interrupt at all. We made a bracha before, but we did the Gemara, the differences of when a person could interrupt and when they can't. Let's do some Rashis. Tanat Beit Rabbi Chia, shayashayna bebeis Rabbi Chia. Huh? Okay, Kach Shmai. This was his name. Tanat Beit Rabbi Chia, shayashayna bebeis Rabbi Chia. He would teach in the yeshiva of the house of Rabbi Chia. What's the din? What's the rule? Is he allowed to interrupt, to inquire of someone's welfare, to greet somebody? Is he allowed to do it? Now, Rabba is qualifying and saying that on days when a person finishes the whole Hallel, it's a requirement for every person to finish Hallel on those days. That's 21 days in the year. We say exactly which days they are in Masechta Erchin. When you have to say the whole Hallel, on those days it's very strict, and you cannot interrupt in the middle of a piece. But only in between pieces. Okay. So the Gemara continues. Ashiyan, this was his name, and he would review just like Achi did it for Ravina, for Rav Ach, what was it? Just like the Bchia, thank you. So Rav Ashem would do it for Rabbi Ami, and he would repeat or review the teachings. So he asked him the following question: Hashari b'tainis, someone that is in the middle of a fast day, whether they accepted a fast on themselves or it's a community fast, there's a fast day going on. Tainis Esther. Ma'u sheyitim. What is the rule about tasting food you're cooking to break the fast? And you want to know if you have to add any more salt or you have to modify something in the recipe. How's the soup? How's the food? I'm fasting. I'm allowed to taste it. Do you say achilo shtia kibalale v'holaka? Do you say what I accepted by myself is that I'm not going to eat or drink? It's a fast day, but now I'm not eating or drinking. I'm tasting something. I'm not even swallowing it. I'm putting it in my mouth to see if it's too salty, and that's fine. V'holaka, I'm not eating or drinking. Oidilma. Or maybe the fast that I accepted upon myself was Hana Kabilale. He accepted not to have any pleasure, any benefit from it. And it's a pleasure, especially if you're hungry, to put something in your mouth, even if you're not going to swallow it. And then I would not be able to do it because V'ha'ika, this is Hana, I do have a benefit and pleasure and enjoyment from eating this, from tasting this food. Omarle, so he told him, Ami told Ashia, and he told him, you could taste the food and there's nothing there. Now, there's different opinions what it means to taste. Let's go with your basic understanding that you're not swallowing the food. It's a very small amount and you're careful not to swallow it. It seems there may be opinions that even if you swallow it, if it's a tiny amount and it wasn't in order to eat, it was just to taste, should be okay. But let's assume that you're not actually eating, you're just touching it to your tongue. Tanya Nami Hachi, we learned a similar rule in the Braisa. If somebody is tasting food, you don't need a bracha. Now, again, it's not if you're eating it to taste it. If once you swallow it, you always have to make a bracha. It doesn't matter how much you have. But if you just, you're giving food to a baby, for example, you want to see, is it too hot? And you put your tongue to it, you don't have to make a bracha if you're not swallowing it. Shari betainis, someone that's fasting, the Braisa continues, he's allowed, he can taste it, and there's nothing wrong with it. Again, tasting is not eating, it's not even swallowing. Ad kama, how much is any amount? Ami and Abasi, Tame ad shir revi'isa. Ami and Abasi, they both tasted until a revi'is. So up until that mount, Vias is about just under 3.5 ounces, which is a lot. But again, just to clarify, this is not halacha, this is not Jewish law, but generally speaking, even if you're not swallowing it, you shouldn't take much in your mouth. But at a time, you're not going to take a lot anyways. You want to see if it's too salty. You put your tongue in the spoon. You're not, right, and not too much. Rashi explains this. What's the rule to taste the dish to see if it needs more salt or more spices? You could taste the dish. Revi is halug. It's a revius of a lug, and that is how the Gemara ends that piece. Okay. Omarav. Back to the concept of it's a hybrid, if you will. We spoke about interrupting Shema to greet somebody. We spoke earlier about not doing things or not eating before davening, which means a full meal, etc. And now we're going to say a interesting teaching which brings both of them together. Omarav. Anyone that goes to greet his friend, and we're going to explain that what we mean by greeting, but he goes to greet his friend before he davens. In other words, normally you should go and praise Hashem. You should talk to Hashem. You should pray. But you don't. You go to hang out with your friends and to see how they're doing. It's as if you made him a bama. A bama was a mizbeach, an altar, which was, for the most part of our history, it was prohibited. We only could bring a carbon. You can only bring an offering in the Mishkan or in the Beis HaMikdash. You can't just go and build a mizbeach anywhere you want, an altar anywhere you want, and bring an offering. And someone that does that, it's called a bama. That's the unauthorized altar. And someone that does that, it goes to his friend, it's as if he's forsaking the Beis HaMikdash and he's going to bring offerings on some kind of unauthorized, some kind of thing which is not for Hashem. Where do you get this teaching from? Shenemar, it says, which essentially means don't rely too much, like stay away, don't get too hung up on the person which has a soul, meaning he's a living thing from Hashem. Because what is he really? All he is, Hashem makes him alive. Don't think that he's really his own entity and his own power. But the word bameh, what is he considered? Al tikri bameh el bama. Don't call this bameh, but another way to read it is bama. So you say, if you went to the person because you were so concerned that you want to please him, or you want him to get along with you, or you need it for something, and you decided you're going to go instead of davening or before davening, you're going to go and deal with him. That's how we learn from that. That's like a bama from this play on words. Ushmul Omar, and Shmuel says you don't even have to change the word from bameh to bama. Bameh chashavte lazeh v'lo leka. What is he considered? Meaning, why did you consider him so important and not the Eibishter? He wakes up in the morning and have a choice. I could go to daven, or I should go to daven, and instead I'm going to deal with someone else or whatever it is. So I'm considering him more than I consider Hashem, or as important to whatever I'm trying to do. Basir of Sheishes asked the question, the Prakim, now he's basically wants to upshal, he wants to disprove what Rav just said. Rav said that you can't greet someone before you daven. So ask Rav Sheishes, you just taught us that Beprakim Shayel Pnei HaKavod Meishiv. You just said that even the section of Shema, which is before Shemona Esrei, when we say you can't greet someone, it means before Shemona Esrei. So before Shemona Esrei, you could stop in the middle of Shema, depending on the opinion, but in the sections of Shema, and you could greet somebody, which is before davening. And you're telling me that before davening, if I go and I greet somebody, then somehow it's as if I brought a carbon on a bama. You just had a whole bunch of Gemara. Yes, the Gemara is going to answer that. One is like knowingly, and one is by the way, a guy passed by. But with this whole history of what we just spoke about, he's disproving the teaching from Rav. Abba explained this. It means when he wakes up early in the morning, it's not like you were in shul and a guy came over to you and you felt I should say hello to him, even though I didn't daven yet. Or you're walking and you meet someone in the marketplace on the way. You got up early in the morning and you said, instead of going to shul, I'm going to go take care of some business, and then afterwards I'll go daven. That would be inappropriate. Okay. Just run through these two lines. Another version of learning this. Rabbi Yena said in the name of Rabbi Zera, anyone that does his deeds, whatever he has to take care of before he davens, it's as if he built a bama. Amar lei bama marta, amar lei loi. Asr ka'amina idibar oven. It's not literally like a bama, but I'm telling you that it's prohibited, like Rav oven, like Rav idibar oven. And now he's going to explain a little bit more what this means. Omar Rav idibar oven, Omar Rav Yitzchak bar Ashiyan, idibar oven said in the name of Yitzchak bar Ashiyan, also other masas chafatzav kedim sheyispalel. A person is not allowed to do his own business before he prays. Shenemar tzedek lefanav yahalech v'yasem l'derech pa'amav. First, do righteousness in front of him. Right, you go to righteousness in front of Hashem, and then you'll put your footsteps or your ways to His way. First, talk to Hashem. First, daven, and then you go do your thing. Omar Rav Idi, and he said more than that. And he gives a very positive ending to this. That anyone that first he goes and davens, and then he goes on his way, and sometimes it's hard and it's looks inconvenient and whatever else, but he makes sure that he davens first, and then he goes on his way, then Hashem makes sure, Hashem takes care of his dealings, he makes sure that it gets done. Using the same pasuk, that righteousness he goes with, Hashem will make sure that his things are done appropriately, which is again the importance of davening first and not going about your own stuff beforehand. Obviously, there's many details here and so on, but this is what the Gemara is saying. Person there's cases where he's going to lose something out of it, and he has a minyan that's kovua, he has a set minyan where he always davens. Davens 9 o'clock every day. He has to take his kids to school. He has other things that you could. Okay, so there's details. Fine, and the person wants to go shopping before davening, not allowed to. Okay, so there's details. Huh? If you have a set minyan, it says by Hilchos Shabbos that on Friday you could, in case if you're afraid that you're not going to have anything else later, it's the exception. Yeah, you're right. So really, you shouldn't go shopping before davening. Yeah. Okay. Right. Every rule has an exception, including this one, including the rule that every rule has an exception. Truth is, I should take that back. It doesn't apply to halacha. There's no exceptions. All I said was there's details. Anyway. Omar Rav Yena Amar Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Yena said the name of Rabbi Zera. Kol halon. Listen to this. Kol halon shivas yamim b'lei cholim nikra da. Anyone that sleeps 7 days and has no dream is considered to be bad. Why? Shenemar v'sovei yolin bal yipakei dra. A satiated one, which we'll explain what it means, goes to sleep, he won't be visited by bad. Al tikri saveya elosheva. Don't learn sated, rather learn 7. So if 7 nights passed and he had no dream, there's something off there. Omar Rav Acha b'nei Rav Chia bar Abba. So Rav Acha, the son of Rav Chia bar Abba, said to him, Hachi Amar Rav Chia bar Rav Yechon. This is what Rav Chia said in the name of Rav Yechon. Any person that sates himself, fills himself up with words of Torah, of Elon, and he goes to sleep, they won't tell him bad news. So he learns a little bit differently, that if you fill yourself up with Torah, then you won't have bad dreams. Same pasuk. But the concept is that when a person is filling his mind with Torah, it doesn't get other things that pop into his dreams and so on. Siddim are very careful when they go to sleep to make sure, at least before they go to sleep, to only be learning holy things and only be focusing on Torah and so on, not to have, because where the mind ends with, that's what it goes to sleep with, that's how the neshama goes up to Shamayim, whether it's more pure or less pure and so on. Let's just catch up some nashis. When you have the requirement to go and be involved in honoring Hashem, which is davening, don't be involved with honoring people. If not, why should he hold back? Okay. Shmuel like that shlashim bama like the mashmai bame chashvose chashavte loze sheikdam tekved lechvedi. He doesn't even change the word from bame to bama. He just says bame. With what did you consider this person more important than myself, than Hashem? Okay. No, Shalom b'nei Kavod. V'ha'krishma ken tfilahu v'katani shayel. And Shema is before Shemona Esrei. And you said that in the middle of Shema, you could go ask your friend or someone that you're afraid of how he's doing. So the Abba explained this, that it talks. Huh? Correct, yeah. According to that opinion, it's anything. Even just covered. You're required to respect it. The mashkim the pische, I will plug it, but if you met him in the middle of the road, you're walking to the street, you don't have to put your head down and not say hello to anybody because you're on your way to davening. It means going on your own in advance and you premeditated decision to go somewhere else instead of to shul. Tzedek is a prayer because it makes him righteous to his creator. That's what he does first. The Hadar, the Yasim Pama, afterwards, he makes his way to his paths of his business. Atikre Savea Lasheva, Yolin by Bakim and Hashemayim Machaleim, Harihura, the Kachem Mashiach the Pakte. So Elohim bin Aprakim, we learned before that what are the sections of Shema? We keep on saying a lot to interrupt. One of these sections, and we went through the first one, the first bracha to the second bracha, and then from Visharecha to Vahaya. Then we had from Emes to the Yatziv. So regarding this thing, Omar Rabbi Yechanan, Halacha Rabbi Yehuda. Halacha is according to Rabbi Yehuda. What did he say? The Omar Ben Elikechem Emes v'Yatziv lo Yafsik. That you finish Shema already, but then you say Ani Hashem Elikechem Emes. Don't stop between Emes and the Yatziv. Omar Rabbi Yechanan. My time made Rabbi Yehuda. What's this reason that Rabbi Yehuda is so careful and he says you're not allowed to interrupt between Emes and Yatziv. Yichsev Hashem Elikim Emes. That Hashem is Emes, is truth. So if you stop in between, Emes, you go back and say Emes or not. So you want to say Hashem Elikim Emes, but you don't want to stop between Emes and Yatziv. So do you do it again a second time? You say Hashem Elikim, and then you say Emes, then you say Emes v'Yatziv. Rabbi says, you don't say it again. There was a person who was next to Rabbi, and Shamir, he heard Rabbi, he heard Rabbi davening, and he heard that Rabbi was saying Shema 2 times. Emes 2 times. So he which kind of resolves our discussion if you repeat it again or not. Amar Rabba, kol emes tafsei. He grabbed, so to speak, both of the emes that he was saying. Tafsei the high. Yeah. What? It means that he managed to catch him like at that time when he said it. Hashem lekechem emes, lekach im mafsik. Im mafsikim ani Hashem lekechem emes. That's why you don't stop between ani Hashem lekechem to emes, because the pasuk says ani Hashem lekechem emes. Of Hashem lekechem emes in Yirmiyah. Call emes tafsi lahai. Riyat hashel emes tfaste lezeh. He caught him while he was saying emes, and then the second emes he managed to get him at that part. I'm going to stop here and get ready for Maider. Koyach.